Hello everybody, my name is Cody Braping as yet another video, and in today's video, we're continuing the tier list for the subclasses of 5e. Next up, after we've done the monk last week, going over all of these little guys, and a couple of them who do not actually exist because they either were made afterwards or, aren't one of the main core books, such as Critical Role stuff, but of course, at that point, Critical Role is kind of mainstay, so, realistically it would be here. Now we're on to the Paladin, where I believe all of these do exist. Actually, I don't think the Ancients... No, the Ancients are there. So yeah, so everything here finally, I believe, does actually exist again. So I won't have any of them going, well, guys, remember, I do have something right here. Trying to do that type of thing to remember that. At least, not here. All of these are real. None of them will go down here. I should be saying none of them will go here. I do have a lot, I'm assuming, especially because they're Critical Role and a Oath of Glory one, plus the Watchers and Oathbreaker are both after all of these have been made. So this will definitely be two parts to do. But without any further ado, let's just jump into it with the Oath of Conquest. I would start with these two just because they're higher up, but I do want to maybe try to get all of these in to one video, maybe, hopefully, just so that I can then have all of the ones that came after into their own video. So, right off the bat, at 3rd level, as with all of them, you'll be gaining a couple of Oath spells. These ones that are always prepared to you do not have to prepare, and they do not count against what you have prepared, as a couple of other classes and subclasses have done that. At 3rd level for the Oath of Conquest, you'll get Armor of Agathis in command. 5th level gives her Hold Person and Spiritual Weapon. 9th gives Bestow Curse and Fear. 13 is Dominate Beast Stoneskin. 17 is Cloud Kill and Dominate Person. So, some pretty good things. I guess as a quick notable thing, I should say. Get out of here. Notable thing, I should say. The Paladin is a half-caster, so they will only be getting spells up to level 5 and a lot less things overall compared to all the other full casters, and they will be getting stuff from their subclasses at 3rd, 7, 15, and 20, the first one of its kind if I'm not mistaken, so look out for that. And they will be getting 2 different channel divinities. They're not getting one on top of a channel divinity they already know, so they don't naturally have a channel divinity up here. So you will only be getting 2 brand new ones here. Conquest will give you Conquering Presence and Guided Strike. Conquering Presence will allow you to use your channel divinity to exude a terrifying presence. As an action, you force each creature of your choice that you can see within 30 feet of you to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, a creature becomes frightened of you for 1 minute. The frightened creature can repeat this saving throw at the end of each of its turn, ending the effect on itself on a success. So, you basically just allow for a 30-foot cast of fear. Any creature, you get to choose, which is great that it isn't like, you accidentally fear your teammates because of this. So you choose who you fear, and you can choose just as many as you want. There is no, can only choose up to your charisma modifier or anything like that. So if there's, 9 enemies within 30 feet of you, you can fear 9 different enemies, potentially. So it's actually pretty cool on that effect. And then it also is not anything like, oh, if you hit them or anything like that. Although I believe the friend condition may just end if you attack them or anything like that. I have to read over it at some point. But yeah, so it is actually a pretty neat little thing. Definitely very effective at early on because not a lot of things will be unaffected by fear. And fear can usually be better than charmed in most cases. But that's debatable depending on what you want to do. Next up is a Guided Strike. You can use your Channel Divinity to strike with supernatural accuracy. When you make an attack roll, you can use your Channel Divinity to gain a plus 10 bonus to the roll. You have to do this before the DM says whether it hits or misses. This is similar to the War Domain Clerics first level their Channel Divinity that they get at 2nd level, is that they can add a plus 10 to their roll. There is nothing here that I believe allows you to put this onto an ally, so this is only affecting you, but still, if you're wanting to do this, especially if you're fighting, something that you want to hit with your smite over here, that might be the reason why you kill, yeah, go ahead and throw that on, because it is extremely helpful actually, so no reason not to be doing it when you really think you should be. At 7th level, you'll gain Aura of Conquest. You constantly emanate a menacing aura while you're not incapacitated. The aura extends 10 feet from you in every direction, but not through total cover. If a creature is frightened of you, its speed is reduced to 0 while in the aura, and that creature takes psychic damage equal to half your paladin level if it starts its turn there. At 18th level, the aura becomes 30 feet. So you're basically playing like your aura is working around your conquering presence channel divinity that you can do, and if there's any other way that you might be causing fear on an enemy, so something fear itself, bestow curse might be able to do that. Other things I'm sure that you can be choosing yourself to actually have as spells from your limited pool can actually probably cause fear in other ways. And then at 18th level, this will become 30 feet. So you have a 10-foot radius. I believe this is how it works for everybody. Is that'll be from 10 feet and then 30th at 18th level, and then it'll have whatever type of effect. This one is negative against negative to enemies as long as they are frightened of you. So they can be not being able to move because of this, meaning they cannot run away. So if you have an enemy who is in the aura, they cannot flee, meaning they can never leave your aura. Meaning that every time they start their turn within it, they'll be taking psychic damage equal to half your level. Which, yes, at max level, that's only going to be 10 damage, but it's also psychic, so highly unresisted, and it's also just free damage as long as the enemy is within it and they're being threatened. So a pretty nice little inclusion there. At 15th level, I believe will be your next one. Yeah, 7, 15, and 20. So at 15th level, you gain Scornful Rebuke. Those who dare to strike you physically, those who dare to strike you are physically punished for their audacity. Whenever a creature hits you with an attack, that creature takes psychic damage equal to your charisma modifier if you're not incapacitated. And this is just if they hit you, every single time they hit you, not as your reaction you can force them to do this, not they have to make a saving throw, you have to do this, not a once per turn this can happen. It is every time a creature hits you with an attack, they automatically take psychic damage equal to your charisma modifier, which at this point is either 4 or 5, so once again, not a whole lot of damage, but it is free chip damage every single time an enemy decides to attack you, or you get hit by an attack. So just a freebie hit every single time for just a little bit of pot shot damage essentially, so a pretty nifty ability, not an absurd amount of damage, but definitely, something to be nice about. And then it's also psychic damage. So it's especially good because later on enemies will be getting multiple attacks they can do. So if you get hit 3 times in a turn, you potentially just did 12 damage, 12 psychic damage to an enemy just because they decided to hit you. So, a little bit of damage here and there. It's kind of nice. And at 20th level, you gain Invincible Conqueror. At 20th level, you gain the ability to harness extraordinary martial prowess. As an action, you can magically become an avatar of Conquest, gaining the following benefits for 1 minute. You have resistance to all damage. When you take the attack action on a turn, you can make 1 additional attack as part of the attack action, which at 5th level, you had already gotten you already got extra attacks, so this will mean that you can do 3 attacks with a single attack action. So you'll be able to hit a fairly decent amount, and it's pretty helpful that way. And your melee weapon attack scores a critical hit on a 19 or 20 on the d20, and you can do this once per long rest. So a very powerful thing this alone makes you extremely good. This one is kind of cool that you can take a 3rd attack. This one also extremely powerful, as you can now do 3 attacks in a single turn, critting on a 19 or 20. You now have a 10% chance to be critting on every single roll. You also, because you can fear people within 30 feet of you now, and they can be affected, 30 feet from your channel divinity, and your aura at 18th level has become 30 feet. So that means that enemies will be frightened of you, can't run away from you, which means you'll be getting advantage. So that's rolling at advantage. A crit on a 19 or 20, you'll be critting a lot more often with 3 attacks on the turn, and your resistance to all damage. Yeah, Oath of Conquest, very a very combat-oriented one, as it's all about trying to cause fear for people, trying to show that you are superior by conquer through fear, not respect, stuff like that. So very sticking to what it should be, and it's all about trying to do as much attack-heavy things as you can. So it's enemies take damage if they hit you because the audacity. Enemies within your aura take damage because they're scared of you. If they are scared of you. You have resistance to damage, more attacks for more damage, a higher chance at critting for more damage, of course. So if you're being a paladin who wants to be like offensive and you're like the damage-based character at the time, Conquest is definitely a great choice for you. Armor of Agathis is a good thing. Spiritual Weapon and Whole Person. Fear for what you're supposed to be doing. Dominate Beast and Dominate Person. Cloud Kill. A lot of really, really good choices you can be doing. So you can do that, and then, of course, you have Smite. So Smite is an extremely powerful ability, which I'll go over when we actually get to the Paladin as a whole. But next up, we'll go with the Channel of Devotion, the Oath of Devotion. At 3rd level, you'll be gaining Sacred Weapon and turn the Unholy as your channel divinities. Sacred Weapon will allow you to add your Charisma modifier to attack rolls made with that weapon. You imbue a weapon for 1 minute with Divine Energy. And then this weapon also emits a bright light of 20 foot, and then a 20 foot after that dim light. You can end this effect on your turn as part of any other action. If you are no longer holding or carrying this weapon or you fall unconscious, then it ends, so it can't, if you throw the weapon, then it loses it. But this is saying that you add your Charisma modifier to the attack rolls made with that weapon. That isn't saying you then use your Charisma modifier instead of your Strength or Dex modifier. You are adding your Charisma modifier, so you're still using like your Strength and or your Strength or Dex modifier. You're adding your Charisma on top of that. So you have a +4 Strength and a +3 Charisma. You're getting a +7 to attack. So early on, you're definitely hitting a lot, pretty often. And then even later on, you'll be hitting pretty often because you have a 5 or 6 Strength and then like a 4 or 5 Charisma, not including, of course, Proficiency. You'll be getting a double digit to hit from modifiers alone, and then you're getting like +6. So you have a +16 to hit, not including if you have a magical weapon. It's pretty good. And then you have Turn the Unholy, which is similar to Turn Undead from the Cleric. It's just that rather than the Fiend and Undead potentially dying if they're too low level compared to you, you just cause them to be afraid of you if they fail their Wisdom saving throw. So, pretty neat little thing to have there. And it's actually fairly beneficial, I would say. At 7th level, your aura is Aura of Devotion. You and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you can't be charmed while you're conscious. At 18th level, it becomes 30 feet. Charmed, not being able to be charmed, this is definitely a fairly beneficial thing. Now, of course, depending on what you're doing, it might not be the most beneficial, because, if you're in a campaign where charm doesn't come up too often, yeah, obviously it's not too beneficial. But if, you go into, a campaign that you might go into the Fae somewhat often, or you fight Succubi, Incubi, who can just naturally charm you, this is allowing you to not be charmed. And, of course, this also means that you are in constant effect of this, which means that you are now immune to being charmed, as long as you're conscious. And, of course, you can't be charmed while unconscious. So, yeah, it's an extremely strong thing to just negate the charmed ability. And then 30 feet, not being able to be charmed within 30 feet of you, it's a pretty impressive thing right there. At 15th level, you gain Purity of Spirit. You are always under the effects of protection from evil and good spell. The evil and good spell is actually fairly beneficial. It'll allow you to take less damage from creatures of whichever one you choose, and you get some other different benefits from it. So if you know that you're going to be going up against creatures who are more often or not evil and or good aligned, then you're always under the effect of it. And wow, you're just taking less damage, having benefits from the actual spell itself. It's actually pretty good. If we go over 20th level, no, I did not. My bad. The Oath spells that you also get at 3rd level. You'll get this spell, Protection from Good and Evil, and Sanctuary. 5th will give you Lesser Restoration and Zone of Truth. 9th will give you Beacon of Hope and Dispel Magic. 13th will give you Freedom of Movement and Guardian of Faith. 17th will give you Commune and Flame Strike. So some pretty good spells. Your Protection from Good and Evil that you get until 15th level, and you can, I believe, give this to to allies. Sanctuary is kind of underrated, honestly, and is actually pretty good. Lesser Restoration, always good to have. Zone of Truth, nice little thing to do outside of combat. Beacon of Hope and Dispel Magic, great things. Freedom of Movement and Guardian of Faith. Flame Strike, all pretty beneficial things that you can now be doing. So, not half bad spells to be getting for free. At 30th level, at 20th level, you get Holy Nimbus. You can, as an action, you can emanate an aura of sunlight. For 1 minute, bright light shines from you in a 30-foot radius, and dim light shines 30 feet beyond that. Whenever an enemy creature starts its turn in the bright light, the target takes 10 radiant damage. No saving throw, no anything. They just take 10 damage if they're within 30 feet of you. In addition, for the duration, you have advantage on saving throws against spells cast by fiends or undead. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So this is, definitely something that if you're, up against fiends and undead, very, very beneficial. You as a whole are something that you want to be, like, this is the character or the subclass that is very kind of heavily based on, protection from good and evil things, as your 15th level thing says that you're getting protection from evil and good. It is very beneficial there. Charmed is something that's very popular between fiends and undead, or fiends and like fey creatures and stuff. Your protection from evil and good. Fey and undead and fiends are often evil and good oriented, so you're now protected from there. And then advantage against the saving throws against them. Fiends and undead take extra damage from radiant damage. Your whole thing is kind of about fighting against fiends and undeads. So if you're in a campaign where that comes up a lot, this one is fantastic. If you're in a campaign where you're like a dungeon delving campaign or something, so you're never really fighting a lot of, evil and good and undead and fiends. I mean, you'll always be fighting undead pretty much, but you don't always fight fiends and fays and stuff, so it's kind of a little bit lower, but still, like, being able to cause immunity to charmed effect, extremely beneficial. And your sacred weapon ability, really good. The spells that you're getting, pretty good. Your aura, great. Purity of spirit, great. Holy Nimbus, good. Might not be the number one that you want out of all the oaths that you can be taking, but still, actually pretty beneficial, I would say. Next up is the Oath of Redemption. Your oath spells will be Sanctuary and Sleep, Calm Emotions, Hold Person, Countess Spell Hypnotic Pattern, Odoluke's Resilient Sphere, and Stone Skin, and then Hold Monsters in Wall of Force in each of their respective levelings. So, Sanctuary, of course, good. Sleep, actually really good and kind of effective if you use it correctly. Calm Emotions can actually come in handy if you have a time when you really should be using it. Hold Person, always good to have. Counterspell, I mean, it's Counterspell. It's arguably one of the best spells in the game. Hypnotic Pattern, it has its moment. Resilient Sphere has a lot more benefits than you'd think. Hold Monster and Wall of Force, fantastic. Your Channel Divinities at 3rd level as well. Emissary of Peace. You can use your Channel Divinity to augment your presence with divine power. As a bonus action, you grant yourself a +5 bonus to persuasion checks for the next 10 minutes. So, obviously, if you know that you're going to be trying to persuade people, you're getting a +5 bonus to that. You already have probably +3 charisma, so now it's a +8. If you're not proficient in it, if you are proficient, it is now +10 at this point. You're probably going to be persuading people more often than not, I would say, and it lasts for 10 minutes, so definitely a pretty decent amount of time. And your other channel divinity will be Rebuke the Violent. Rebuke the Violent. You can use your channel divinity to rebuke those who use violence. Immediately after an attacker within 30 feet of you deals damage with an attack against a creature other than you, you can use your reaction to force the attacker to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the attacker takes radiant damage equal to the damage it just dealt. On a successful save, it takes half as much. So no matter what, this can just cause damage to an enemy. So if, an enemy attacks an ally and, they do some hefty damage to them, well, you can then force the enemy to take some hefty damage right back, and this is going to be terrifying if you're attacking like an undead or a fiend, because this is radiant damage, which means that they could potentially do 36 damage to an ally. They fail the save, they took 72 because they were vulnerable against radiant damage. That's just a use of Channel Divinity and your reaction to do 36 damage, to do 72 damage, or even 18 damage. As a reaction, just to do 18 damage for free, essentially. Yeah, that's pretty good and extremely strong, I would say. Next, at 7th level, your aura is the aura of the Guardian. You can shield others from harm at the cost of your own health. When a creature within 10 feet of you, later on 30, takes damage, you can use your reaction to magically take the damage instead of that creature taking it. This feature doesn't transfer any other effects that might accompany the damage, and this damage can't be reduced in any way. So even if you have a resistance to fire damage, because you're a Copper Dragonborn or something, you're still going to be taking the normal fire damage. This is basically just unspecified damage that you were just taking, so you can't reduce it anyway. But there also isn't any other effects, like if the damage would poison you, or the damage would cause you to become paralyzed or something like that, or to be knocked prone potentially. That part just doesn't exist. You just negate that part, but it also in trading out any negative extra benefits that the attack might have on that, you can't be resistant. So no resisting, but you won't be knocked prone, pushed back, poisoned, burned, frightened, nothing like that. So a nice little thing. You definitely want to be a lot more of a constitution based character if you want to be doing this. If you're going to be seeing damage coming in, and you also probably don't want to be doing this constantly unless you have so much health or you have such good healing that you don't need to worry too much about it. But still actually a very beneficial thing, so you kind of are almost like a more of a backline character, as you can help, if your wizards and stuff, your lower AC guys are getting hit a lot more often and probably getting damaged a lot higher. You can cause the enemies who hit them to be taking damage, and then this one will allow you to take the damage instead of your wizards and stuff, which will also protect them from having to make a constitution saving throw or something. So neat little thing in that way also. At 15th level, you'll gain protective spirit. At a Starting at 15th level, a holy presence mends your wounds in battle. You regain hit points equal to 1d6 plus half your paladin level if you end your turn in combat with fewer than half of your hit points remaining and you aren't incapacitated. So this one works extremely well with this guy right here, with your Aura of the Guardian, as you can basically take in a little bit of damage and kind of not have to worry as much, because you're taking 20 damage away from an ally, and then now you're below half hit points. So then at the end of your turn, you can heal up 1d6 plus, at this point would be 7 or 8, depending on, usually it's rounded up, so it would be 1d6 plus 8, so a minimum of 9, an average of 12, a max of 15. 15 hit points that you just, you took 20 damage, you now get to heal up 15 at max, or even 9 at max. You're healing back half the damage you just took, as long as you were under half HP because of it. It's actually some really cool, very strong thing. Definitely a very beneficial thing that you would want to be happening. I mean, even if you aren't taking damage for your allies, this is just free healing that you get as long as you're between 0 and half of HP. So, always fairly beneficial. And at 20th level, you gain the Emissary of Redemption. You become an Avatar of Peace, which gives you 2 benefits. You have resistance to all damage dealt by other creatures, their attacks, spells, and other effects. Whenever a creature hits you with an attack, it takes radiant damage equal to half the damage you take from the attack. If you attack a creature, cast a spell on it, or deal damage to it by any means but this feature, neither benefit works against the creature until you finish a long rest. So this isn't something that you activate and is active for a certain amount of time. This is something that is constantly active, which is basically the only time this isn't active is to an enemy that you have attacked. So if you chose an enemy to attack, to cast a spell on, to deal damage somehow, then this effect ends for that specific enemy. It doesn't just end overall, but of course if they do take damage from your second ability right here, then it's fine. So it is a constant state of being resistant to damage, and all damages from any types, and you also will cause damage to enemies who do hit you. So you probably won't have quite as high as a dex, so you probably won't be going first as often. So you could be standing there taking a lot of damage, and especially from taking damage that your allies can be taking, you can just take the damage for them, which then means that you'll take the damage and then force the damage on an enemy, and it would be half the damage you take in radiant damage. So if you take 38 damage, the enemy will take 19 radiant damage just because they hit you. Not to mention any other way that you might be doing it, like, Rebuke the Violent can't be against or for you, but, you know, some pretty beneficial things, and then, of course, Protective Spirit. Redemption, definitely, it has its inside of combat, outside of combat, protective feel, extra damaging, all sorts of things that are extremely beneficial. And then the fact that this isn't a, one-time thing is like, oh, you can't work against that creature till a long rest. Realistically, if you're fighting a creature, like, this is going to be something that's in combat related, of course, because it is, like, a lot of things to do with damage and whatnot. Yeah, you probably aren't going to be seeing that enemy after you take a long rest, because more likely than not, you're trying to kill the enemy. Which means that you can almost be I'm going to focus on either all of the minions, or I'm going to be the one who focuses kind of solely on the big guy, while all these minions are also attacking me. I never attack the minions, they all attack me. They're constantly taking damage from miscellaneous things that I can do, and then because you never hit them, you constantly are gaining the benefit of resistances. You're constantly being resistant to their damage, and they're constantly taking damage because they're hitting you. So, yeah, extremely beneficial. Easily the 96 to 98% range, 91 to 93. Because if you want to be a pure combat focused one, this is your guy. And then Devotion, probably like the 86 to 88 range. Next up will be the Oath of Vengeance. Ooh, look at him. Oath of Vengeance. Your channel divinities will be Abjure Enemy and Vow of Enmity. Abjure Enemy, as an action, you present your holy symbol and speak a prayer of denunciation. Using your channel divinity, choose one creature within 60 feet of you that you can see. That creature must make a wisdom saving throw unless it is immune to being frightened. Fiends and undead have disadvantages on the saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is frightened for 1 minute or until it takes damage. While frightened, the creature's speed is 0 and it can't benefit from any bonus to its speed. On a successful save, the creature's speed is halved for 1 minute or until the creature takes any damage. So you get to frighten the creature, and you get to force the creature to not be able to run away from you. And then on a successful save, they're just half speed until the creature takes any damage. So you basically can get a free pot shot from this one, and it is a fairly decent range that you can cast onto an enemy with 60 feet. So pretty good. And then Vow of Enmity, as a bonus action, you can utter a Vow of Enmity against a creature you can see within 10 feet of you using your channel divinity. You gain advantage on attack rolls against the enemy creature for 1 minute or until it drops to 0 hit points or falls unconscious. So as a bonus action, meaning that you can still attack on the same turn that you put the Vow of Enmity on, you get advantage against the creature. So you just run up to an enemy that you choose, cast Vow of Enmity, and then you're getting advantage the entire time you're attacking them until you kill them, basically. So, pretty good. Very offense-oriented, of course. Your spells for Oath of Vengeance will be Bane Hunter's Mark at 3rd level, Hold Person Misty Step for 5, Haste Protection from Evil, Banishment Dimension Door, Hold Monster Scrying in 9th, 13th, and 17th. Bane and Hunter's Mark, really good. Getting to cause Bane for them to be it harder for them to make saving throws and attack you and whatnot. Hunter's Mark for a bit of extra damage. Hold Person for it's just a great spell. Misty Step for mobility stuff. Haste are one of the best spells in the game, arguably the best low-level spell. Protection from energy is nice. Banishment, great. Dimension Door, great. Hold Monster, great. Scrying, it's pretty good. It's alright. Your 7th level aura is Relentless Avenger. Your supernatural focus helps you close off a foe's retreat. When you hit a creature with an opportunity attack, the attack of opportunity reaction, you can move up to half your speed immediately after the attack, and as part of the same reaction, this movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks. So this one actually is not an aura that you're getting, but this is basically you constantly want to be attacking people. So if somebody tries to run away from you, you can hit them and then just run after them. You can just be like, okay, yeah, cool, you're getting away. Guess what? I'm still following you. So it's like, yeah, cool, you got, a little bit further away from me than, you'd like, but hey, guess what? I'm still coming after you because I still want to kill you, which is kind of the point of the vengeance is going after one person until you kill them, and then going after the next person that you want to be avenged, that you want to get vengeance on. At 15th level, you get the Soul of Vengeance. The authority with which you speak your Vow of Enmity gives you greater power over your foe. When a creature under the effect of Vow of Enmity makes an attack, you can use your action to make a melee weapon attack against that creature if it's within range. So this is basically just giving you the ability to hit the creature if they try to hit you, or actually just makes an attack in general. It doesn't even need to be against you. So, you can just be chasing people around, hitting people, with advantage, hitting a specific person with advantage, I should say, and then getting to hit them more and more and more often. This really is the kind of narrow-minded, this is the guy that I want to kill type of character, not a, here and then go up to here and then do stuff over there and then do stuff over here. It is, this is my target. Once you're dead, then you're no longer my target because you're dead. Bye-bye. So, a pretty good thing there if that's how you want to be playing. And then at 20th level, you gain Avenging Angel. You can assume the form of an angelic avenger. Using your action, you undergo a transformation. For 1 hour, you gain the following benefits. Wings sprout from your back and grant you a flying speed of 60 feet. You emanate an aura of menace in a 30-foot radius. The first time any enemy creature enters the aura or starts its turn there during a battle, the creature must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or become frightened of you for 1 minute or until it takes damage. Attack rolls against the frightened creature have advantage. So, you grow wings and gain flying of 60 feet. As I've said several times about several things, flying speed, any way you can gain flying speed, whether it's a spell or just from abilities, makes the ability 10 times better because, well, now you can be moving and attacking in a full range of movement. It is no longer just on one dimension because you can only move, walking around. You can now fly around, which means that you can hit enemies who are in the air, who are on buildings, who are, just farther up than you are. Huge benefit there. And then your Aura of Menace, which is not actually what your aura is. You don't actually have an aura technically, but this is what your aura would basically be, or the aura that Conquest, I believe, was giving, is that enemies become friend if they're within the area. You now also get this one, and then you have advantage against people, and they're frightened, which, this one, this is a very, you are going after one person. Conquest gives you the ability to go after multiple people and do some, other things. Vengeance is narrowing down what Conquest can do onto one person and making it better. So Conquest can do what it does, fear against a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of different things. Vengeance is all of what Conquest does, focused onto one guy. So if you, are playing in a party of 4 people total, Conquest would probably be better as you can, help out all around. If you're in a party of 8 or something like that, 7, 8, that a huge party type of area, Vengeance would be better because then you don't need to be spreading everything out like Conquest does. You can really just start focusing down what you want to be doing. So, beneficial both in their own right. I do put Conquest just a little bit above, solely for the fact that the ability to, work in larger areas rather than just focus down to one thing. You can kind of spread out what you do. Just makes it a little bit better in my opinion. Next will be the Ancients. The Ancient One. Oh, actually Crown is not on here. I believe Crown used to be here, but it seems as though Crown is no longer here. Interesting. Might have had its name changed, might just not exist anymore. I'm not quite sure, but I believe Crown used to exist, and it just isn't here anymore, which I'm sure is the case for all of these right here, is they did exist at one point, just don't anymore. So now we get to go to the Ancients. So, let's see how the Ancients stack up to all the other ones so far. Your channel divinities at 3rd level will be Nature's Wrath and Turn the Faithless. Nature's Wrath will allow you to choose your channel divinity to invoke primeval forces to ensnare a foe. As an action, you can cause spectral vines to spring up and reach for a creature within 10 feet of you that you can see. The creature must succeed on a strength or dex saving throw, its choice, or be restrained. While restrained by the vines, the creature repeats the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. On a success, it frees itself from the vines and vanish. The vines do, not the person, obviously. So it's good that you get to snare people. 10 foot is a little bit small of a range, and then they get to choose dex or strength or dex, so it's kind of, it really benefits the enemies in this one. So a little bit down on that one. And then Turn the Faithless. Interesting they call it faithless and not just unfaithful. I guess unfaithful and faithless are two different things, but you know. You can use your channel divinity to utter ancient words that are painful for Fae and Fiends to hear. As an action, you present your holy symbol, and each Fae or Fiend within 30 feet of you that can hear must make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the creature is turned for 1 minute or until it takes damage. A turned creature must spend its turns trying to move as far away from you as it can, and it can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of you. It also can't take reactions. For its actions, it can use only the dash action or try to escape from an effect that it prevents it from moving. If there's nowhere to move, it can take the dodge action. If the creature's true form is concealed by an illusion, shapeshifting, or other effect, that form is revealed while it is turned. So this one is very good as it hits Fae and Fiends. So you're definitely going to be facing a lot of Fae and Fiends compared to other things. So it's very beneficial there. A 30-foot radius is pretty good. Wisdom saving throw, it just makes sense to be doing that. A minute or until the damage is taken, and then you get the effect of it can't be within 30 feet of you. It can't take reactions. It can only run away from you. It can't even try to attack if it's within the range of you. It has to run away essentially. And then you also can take away its illusion, shapeshifting, or any other effect that is concealing its true form. Do this effect. So a fairly beneficial thing there. Probably not as often on Fiends this one will be happening, but Fae will be revealing their true form, as Fae often will probably be focusing more on illusions and stuff, although things like Rakshasa, which I believe are technically Fiends, definitely like to do illusion shapeshifting. So a very, very beneficial thing there. Your Oath spells will be Ensnaring Strike and Speak with Animals, Misty Step and Moonbeam, Plant Growth and Protection from Evil, Ice Storm and Stone Skin, Commune with Nature's Tree Stride. So, Misty Step and Moonbeam are good, Protection from Energy, Ice Stone, Tree Stride, they're all good and they all make sense. Are there better ones? Yeah. I mean, they're still good, don't get me wrong. Also, something that really puts Vengeance up there, or some of its Oath spells, they're great. So that is definitely something that really benefits, is how good are your spells? Are you really looking forward to the fact that you're getting these at late levels, or would it have been smarter for you to have multi-classed before this point? Things like that also kind of were put in just a little bit. At 7th level, you get Aura of Warding. Ancient magic lies so heavily upon you that it forms an Eldritch Ward. You and friendly creatures within 10 feet of you have resistance to damage from spells. At 18th level, it becomes 30 feet. This is actually kind of beneficial, as you gain resistance to damage from spells, and that's pretty beneficial. Of course, do make note that it's just resistance from spells. So, if you are hit by Fireball, then you'll resist the fire damage. You don't have advantage on the saving throw. That's something that I guess some people have mistaken, is that you're getting to have a lot of protection from that. And it also isn't taking in effect for weapons and stuff. Those are not resisted. It is only damage from spells. So it is beneficial, as you'll be taking less damage, of course, but other ways that this is just the wording, make sure that you are paying attention to that and you're not actually misinterpreting it. Still extremely beneficial, as resistance to damage is always good. Just make sure it is, the damage that you're taking is from a spell and not from an effect or from a magical item. It is only from spells, not magical items or magical abilities. So, I guess know the damage, the difference between those two. At 15th level, you gain Undying Sentinel. When you are reduced to 0 hit points and not killed outright, you can choose to drop to 1 hit point instead. Once you use this ability, you can't do it again until I finish a long rest. Additionally, you suffer none of the drawbacks of old age and can't be aged magically. So, just a nifty little thing, as try to keep yourself alive for as long as you can. For once per long rest, you can just say, no, I don't feel like dying from this one, and then just live on 1 HP. Pretty nifty little thing. A couple other classes get that. And then at 20th level, you gain Elder Champion. You can assume the form of an ancient force of nature, taking on an appearance you choose. For example, your skin might turn green or take on a bark-like feature, your hair might become leafy or moss-like, or you might sprout antlers or a lion-like mane. Using your action, you undergo a transformation. For 1 minute, you gain the following benefits. At the end of each of your turns, you regain 10 hit points. Whenever you cast a Paladin spell that has a casting time of 1 action, you can cast it using a bonus action instead, and enemy creatures within 10 feet of you have disadvantage on saving throws against your Paladin spells and Channel Divinity options. So, this one is actually really good, as for 1 minute, you'll be getting 10 hit points, which means that if it is active for the whole time, you'll be gaining, each turn lasts 6 seconds, so you'll gain 10 of those, so you'll have 100 hit points regained. As the current build says, you have 204 hit points. You basically just regained half of your HP. That's a lot of HP. Your Paladin spells can be cast as a bonus action if they cost 1 action, so you can cast 2 spells, essentially, or you can cast a spell and then a cantrip, depending on how you want to be doing things, so you can actually get a few of extra little benefits here and there, or you can cast a spell and then still have the attack action available to you, and then enemy creatures within 10 feet of you have disadvantage on the saving throws against your spells and divinity stuff. Yeah, it's actually fairly beneficial. Do note, it is a finish long rest one as well. Do note though that these features that you take on, these are just for appearance. You don't gain any benefits from those or any negatives. So it's not like you have a bark-like texture. You're not bark now. You're not going to be weak to fire or something. And also, if you choose to have antlers or something, you can't have the antlers and have the ram ability or anything like that. And if you have wings for it, or wings that you grow as your choice, you can't fly. Those are all just cosmetic. You don't even need to choose those, in all honesty, but you can just be an Elder Champion. And those are definitely beneficial, and it definitely puts it just a little bit higher up, but to be fair, the Capstone is great. Undying Sentinel is basically what a half-orc gets at first level, essentially, just for being a half-orc. The Aura of Warding is good, but, there's other things that are a bit better. Your Oath spells aren't exactly the best. Nature's Wrath is kind of meh. Turn the Faithless is fairly effective. It's just, when you compare the Ancients to the other guys, this guy's definitely a low B at the moment. A 81 to 83. Definitely, if there's other Paladin subclasses that are put here, there's an easy case to be pushed down here into C. And lastly, for the ones that are here, is the Oathbreaker. Oathbreaker. Your Oathbreaker spells will be Hellish Rebuke and Inflict Wounds, Crown of Madness and Darkness, Animate Dead and Bestow Curse, Blight and Confusion, Contagion and Dominate Person. Hellish Rebuke, actually really good. Inflict Wounds, Crown of Madness, if you can use it well enough, it's actually kind of good. Darkness is always fun to be able to have. Animate Dead and Bestow Curse have a lot more use. Blight and Confusion, Contagion, meh, but Dominate Person, fantastic. Your channel divinities are Control Undead and Dreadful Aspect. Control Undead will allow you to, as an action, the Paladin targets one creature that they can see within 30 feet of them. The target must make a Wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target must obey the Paladin's commands for the next 24 hours, or until the Paladin uses this channel divinity option again. An undead whose challenge rating is equal to or greater than the Paladin's level is immune to this effect. So, don't think that at any point you're going to be grabbing a Lich or something, but being able to snag some higher raters, higher rating ones from time to time, especially at very high levels. Don't be expecting to be able to do that in smarter areas than you would actually probably think, especially if you're in a campaign where there's a lot of undead. This can do a whole lot, and obviously, as you can tell, this one is all about wanting to have undead and stuff, while all the other ones are always do more damage to undead, do more damage to evil things. You are now the evil Paladin, essentially. That's kind of what this one is going after, and this also is just if they fail the saving throw, they're under your commands. They won't, if they take damage from somehow, it's not like this breaks or anything. They don't get to try to resist again at any point. you're just under your command for 24 hours. Of course, this can only affect undead, so you probably aren't going to be seeing this played in campaigns where there aren't a lot of undead, but still, it's going to be fantastic if you are. And dreadful aspect. As an action, the paladin channels the darkest emotions and focuses them into a burst of magical menace. Each creature of the paladin's choice within 30 feet of the paladin must make a wisdom saving throw if it can see the paladin. On a failed save, the target is frightened of the paladin for 1 minute. If a creature frightened by this effect ends its turn more than 30 feet away from the paladin, it can attempt another wisdom saving throw to end the effect. So this one just allows you to get a 30-foot radius of fear on all enemies of your choice. The kind of unique thing is that they have to be out of 30 feet from you. So if you can somehow keep them within 30 feet of you, they are always going to be frightened, and there's nothing that can end their frightened condition. Not even, it doesn't say damage, it doesn't say anything like that. In order for this to stop, it has to be 1 minute, they're unconscious, or they get out of 30 feet of you. So a nifty little thing, as your whole shtick is that you kind of hate people, and people are your enemy at this point. You like the undead a bit more, almost. So, at 7th level, you gain Aura of Hate. The Paladin, as well as any fiends and undeads within 10 feet of the Paladin, gains a bonus to melee weapon damage rolls equal to the Paladin's Charisma modifier. A creature can benefit from this feature only one Paladin at a time. So if you have like a whole bunch of these guys, you could not be like stacking this to do just 1,000 damage on a turn or something like that. You get one of the Paladins, whoever is the highest, you'll be getting the benefit from that. And then 30 feet at 18th level, note that this is saying it is just the Paladin and then fiends and undeads. So if your allies are not fiends and undeads, they're not gaining this benefit. But if you do have like a necromancer on your team who has been raising undead people to be walking around with you, those will be gaining benefits. But also notice that it is saying any fiends and undeads, which means that enemy creatures, like enemy fiends and enemy undead, will be getting this. So, yeah, kind of bad to be honest. It's really good. Like if the DM makes this and they put it on the enemy team, yeah, that's terrifying. If they have like a enemy Aura of Hate, an enemy Oathbreaker paladin wandering around with, kind of leading fiends and undeads or something, yeah, you're kind of in trouble, because they're all getting the bonus, while your team is not. So, little spooky there. At 15th level, you gain Supernatural Resistance. The Paladin gains resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing from non-magical weapons. A nice little thing to be getting, as resistance is always helpful to get, I would say. And at 20th level, the Paladin can, as an action, surround themselves with an aura of gloom that lasts for 1 minute. The aura reduces any bright light in a 30-foot radius around the Paladin to dim light. Whenever any creature that is frightened by the Paladin starts its turn within the aura, it takes 4d10 psychic damage. Additionally, the Paladin and creatures they choose in the aura are draped in deeper shadow. Creatures that rely on sight have disadvantage on attack rolls against creatures draped in the shadow. And it's not even if the enemy has dark vision, they aren't affected. No, they are still affected. While the aura lasts, the Paladin can use a bonus action on their turn to cause the shadows in the aura to attack one creature. The Paladin makes a melee spell attack against the creature. If the attack hits, the target takes necrotic damage equal to 3d10 plus the Paladin's Charisma modifier. You can only do this once per short rest, or long rest. This one is extremely good and very powerful, as you have a 30-foot radius that you can be causing fear from this right here, from your dreadful aspect ability. You can cause fear there. You can cause fear from spells. I don't think any of these can cause fear except maybe confusion, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe bestow curse. But you of course have other ways that you can be causing fear. So anytime that you cause fear to an enemy, you gain a pretty strong thing here at the end, as if they start their turn, which means that they can't even try to run away at the end of their turn or anything like that. It is just immediately you're taking 4d10 psychic damage, highly unresisted by the way, and then any enemies that are in it can also be taking even more damage, allowing for enemies to have, or causing enemies to have disadvantage against allies by keeping them in even further darkness. Of course, all of this is really good. There's just one kind of bad issue, and it's your Aura of Hate. That is something that kind of makes this just bad, actually. Like, bad for a player. And it's just Aura of Hate, as this will actually benefit your enemies more often than it will you, because this only affects you, which is kind of the shtick, is that you're the, like, almost, not self-centered, but, like, more of a focusing on you type of paladin, and, like, denouncing your god. But because you denounce your god, and you're now helping fiends and undead, well, there's not a lot of races that are fiend, or that are considered fiend and undead, if any. I think now there is with the newest book. There might be a couple of undead that you can play, and maybe fiends, and tieflings might count as fiends as well. But at the same time, there's a lot of enemies and enemy types that are fiends and undead who will be gaining this benefit, as you cannot choose who gets this benefit. It is just any of them will. So it kind of makes this extremely bad, and to be honest, it's because of that it really drops. And you might be thinking that is a very, very harsh assessment to take it all like an easy, B or very low S tier, and dropping it all the way down to a C tier, when your whole thing at 7th level, an aura that you cannot turn off or choose who gains the benefit, is going to be gaining this benefit, and then 30 feet at 18th level. That means that even enemies that are not within, like, attacking you range will be getting this benefit to be doing more damage to your allies, and it's not even like you can benefit your allies too well with this. And then you're all about, like, targeting, like, controlling one undead at a time. I mean, there's not a lot of really strong high undead things, like higher level ones, that are like, it's really like low, 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 a few medium, and then just high. Like, there's very few that, like, you don't want like a level 1 thing, like a 1 combat rating thing in your team, and like the few like 3 and 4s don't come up as often, and then you can't get like the combat rating 10 guys on your team because you're just not strong enough. And then Dreadful Aspect, very good, as you can cause fear against a whole bunch of enemies within 30 feet of you. Really good. And then that also benefits down here at Dreadlord. And then your 15th level ability, yeah, that's pretty cool. It's just all that 15th level, most things will probably be having magical weapons. So, all in all, not super good. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure there are ways to play this to make it pretty good. And its spells are actually really good and beneficial, I would say. So that does it for this video. Later on, and maybe tomorrow, depending on if I have time to record this, we'll be going over the Critical Role's Oath of the Open Sea. We'll be going over Magic's Oath of Glory, and we'll be going over the Oath of the Watchers. So stay tuned for that. If you guys did enjoy this video, though, then consider hitting the like button and commenting down below what you guys did enjoy, so that I can continue doing it, to continue making the videos as well as I have been. If you guys didn't like this video, then go ahead and dislike it, and let me know in the comments what you didn't like, so that I can improve upon it. If you guys want to know when I upload, then the best way to know is by subscribing. But that does it for this video. Until next time, bye guys.